these are all kind of slapdash, like, whatever. I didn't really have anything planned. I just felt like talking, you know. I think there's a few things I wanted to say, or even maybe mention that I would bring up and probably forgot about, So when I'm on like, video 6 or whatever at this point, I'm sure whenever I make them, I'll remember and then be fucking pissed off. But whatever. The 15-minute thing really gets in the fucking way. But, as usual, that's not necessarily the point for me. The point for me more is I'm just so desperate to just try to revel in the escapism. Like sometimes it's not even, can't even really necessarily call it nostalgia because, it just ends up making me think of a bunch of shit from the past. Or like sometimes if I'm really in the groove with a game, one of those games I can sort of like play blindfolded, like Doom 3 or whatever, it doesn't necessarily, like, even if I enjoy the game, it doesn't necessarily preoccupy me. Like I've had that, if you ever had that before, if, a job that was, pretty simple and like you ever get in a flow state, it's like, once you get used to what you need to do in the job and you stop having to really overtly think about stuff, now all of a sudden you're back to just thinking about the shit you always think about. So it can end up, kind of being a detriment. If you're like me, being like preoccupied actually helps you think about stuff. If it's something that otherwise doesn't take a lot of mental, you know, uh, uh, use or whatever. It's like playing a game I've played 1,000 times or whatever. If you're like me, that kind of shit will actually make you think about shit more. But whatever. I use this more for like true venting. And I try to keep myself pretty well, stapled onto the video games shit at this point. I might mention something here or there if it's particularly prominent in my mind, but I try to truly just sort of distract myself. And, you can sort of see the progression. It's like I was playing Deus Ex a few months ago and I got into, Half-Life 2 at some point and a few other games, and now I'm at Doom 3. And I still haven't started playing Stalker yet. I might do that before long. But I'm starting to feel in the mood for Fear and Condemned Criminal Origins. And, as far as Boiling Point, I downloaded those two versions I had mentioned before. I still haven't fucked with them yet. I scanned them. I took their SHA-SUM to Virus Total, and unsurprisingly, it told me that the CD crack or whatever was like a virus. But it was only like 5 out of 100, tested positive or whatever. But the way keygens or cracks or whatever work will give false flags like that. I don't know. My main thing is just kind of wondering to myself if I feel like risking it or not. Because the ROM version I downloaded, it's got the same CD key crack or whatever the fuck it is with it. I don't know. Like, I'm seriously thinking I might, like, I mean, I have a GOG account. I just really haven't touched it in forever. Kind of at this point wondering if I could even still fucking log in. Um, but like I'm seriously considering just buying the game. But that's something I mentioned before. I still haven't looked into yet. But I don't even know if it's still on sale right now. But if the money's going to go to Atari or whatever, then I'm going to get it the cheapest I could get it, or maybe just not worry about it. But motherfuckers actually made the game. If I could give them the money, right, then I'll wait till it's full price. But that was sort of what I mentioned in one of the last videos, and kind of bring up a lot in general. Like one of the things that appeals to me of the so-called jank, shit like Boiling Point, Xanus or whatever, or like Mortier, or different games like that, is that you can really see and feel the effort that they put into it. And I've never worked on an official released game before, but I have, done level design for over 20 years as a hobby. I've been on mod teams before, just never anything that got released. The one time I made a multiplayer, like officially, I mean, it was nowhere close to finished, but actually released a playable version of a multiplayer map. I had a 32 player server test it and tell me that they all thought it was great. They loved playing it. That's the one time I actually released one, right? Sort of like a closed beta, so to speak, or something, or open beta or whatever. So I have a lot of experience in game design, even if I've never exactly got paid for it. But I know enough about technology and game design and all that stuff that whenever a game like really has the talent and the skill and the you know the the creativity put into it, and it's got the soul to it, and like you really get that feel it's like a labor of love, even if it's clunky or janky or whatever. Maybe it's not that great or this or that, but you can tell what they were trying to accomplish, and then also you understand the shit enough to know why they may not have been able to accomplish this or that, right? And, it's like Blood 2. You could tell, like, Monolith always made amazing games, and even if they didn't necessarily end up that great, you could tell that they were talented developers. But a lot of times they just got fucked over, right? So like GT Interactive fucking them over with Blood 2, um, Warner Brothers and all that fucking them over on Fear 2. Like, Fear 2 is the way that it is because Monolith, as far as they could tell, Fear wasn't even their intellectual property. And I remember being on the Monolith forums back in the day when everyone voted. So their spiritual successor, they had the forum vote for the name of it, and the one that got voted the most for, which I had also voted for, was Project Origin. The name of the game was going to be Project Origin. Once they finally got all that bullshit ironed out, that's why it's subtitled on the official release Fear 2 Project Origin. That's also, in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like, we have Fear at home, right? It's like Dollar Tree Fear or whatever. Is because they were basically trying to make the same game a second time, but without getting, like fucked with like copyright law bullshit, right? Like there's a lot of different shit. If Fear 2 or if Blood 2 got forced to be released half finished, well, no wonder it's all fucked up like it is, right? Like a lot of the shit people meme on with the game, like when the teleports go ding or like whatever, like silly sound effects or sound effects like seemingly missing this and that. That's probably why, and probably a lot of like that one might have been the humor that Monolith always kind of put into stuff, like on the teleport, making a dinging noise. But a lot of shit like that, there's sound effects missing or this, is probably just placeholders that they had never gotten around to making a proper version of yet. Like Blood 2 was pretty much literally released half finished, But Boiling Point, it was just trying to do so much stuff, right? It's an extremely complex game. It's kind of nuts what they could accomplish. So even if the game is janky or this or that or bugs, glitches, it doesn't matter to me because I see what they were going for. And I love the fact that they were able to make it as good as it was, right? I really want to play that fucking game again. That's another game I haven't played in probably 10 years. Maybe longer at this point. I don't fucking know. That's kind of the problem, though. These games are too big now, right? It's going to be the same Call of Duty for another 20 years because if they do anything else, it's not going to sell as much as they wanted. At least when you got a couple guys making some budget FPS game, you can afford to try something different. Now you're not dealing with shareholders and bullshit, right? That was what really fucked up id. Like I said, John Carmack fucked up with, Tech 5. He shouldn't have done mega textures the way the texture atlases have been around as long as graphics have been around. He picked the wrong version of mega texture. The other version is literally just really high resolution textures. They should have went that route. He fumbled the ball on Tech 5 and was like, all right, fuck it. He'd rather pursue the VR gimmick that never pans out anytime they fucking try it. But, you know, this idea that they're going to sell the company and now they'll have like more money for development. Yeah, that never fucking happens, right? No, now it's like, well, it's our money, so you got to make the game we want, right? And that's what fucked up Champions, right? Quake Champions. But that's also why we'll never get another proper Quake game. I know everybody wants a Quake 1 style game. You know what? I liked Quake 2. I love Quake 2. I mean, I love both, but I really love Quake 2. And I love Quake 4. Quake 4 is basically Quake 2 2, right? It's pretty much like totally based off of Quake 2. But, you know, if they made Quake 5, you know, just another version like Quake 4 or, you know, like Quake 2 derived, I'd be cool with that. If they made a Quake 1 style one, that would be cool too. But the thing is, they're never going to do it, right? They might release HD remakes at some fucking point or whatever. But the thing is, ZeniMax and now especially Microsoft is only concerned with money. Now, if you're a little private company, right? That's what id Software and like 3D Realms and all that. What it used to be, it'll be done when it's done, right? Well, now they got somebody to answer to. So they're just going to go to the lowest common denominator to churn bullshit out fast enough to make as much money as possible. No wonder everything's got fucking loot crates in it. So you don't get good games anymore because you basically can't. But that's a big part of why I like games. You know, it's like Mortier, They're Alive, Painkiller, Boiling Point. You know, I would consider that, you know, kind of almost like indie tier or maybe single A. But even up into, you know, like double A, like I would call it, you know, it's not triple A, but still, you know, pretty decently high level games. You know, like Fear or whatever. You know, at that point they're still trying new stuff. There's still a style to it. It's not going to appeal to everyone, but it's going to appeal to enough motherfuckers, right? And you know, at that smaller level, that's the difference. Like where Valve used to be at, right? Like there was you know, there's one, you know, making money is not the problem. It's that's your only fucking concern being the problem. You know, it's like used to, they made the money by making a quality product. They made a good game. Now they make the money by just fucking you over every fucking way possible. And like if nothing else, they're selling your personal information. So everything is all bland and generic because nothing else is going to work. You know, everything has to get, you know, no matter how much money they already fucking have. But will there ever be a renaissance of that kind of shit ever again? I doubt it. The so-called indie stuff was, you know, initially kind of supposed to be sort of like a renaissance of, you know, retro or, oh, remember when games used to be good, you know, and you know, I mean, that rhetoric is already 20 years old, but now it's just more corporate shit. And it's probably never going to be that again. It's like you only got, you know, Boiling Point or Stalker or like whatever the fuck else, specifically because of all the circumstances, you know, confluence of the time. It's a holistic thing. You can't just separate out part of it, right? It's everything all together. That's why Stalker 2 failed. That's why, you know, Rage failed or Quake Champions, whatever other bullshit is, because they're trying to appeal to some superficial shit and not the actual true soul of the game that actually makes it successful in the first place. I don't know. It's kind of nebulous bullshit, but, you know, whatever. A lot of times meaningful stuff is also inarticulable, I guess. Like, you ever really going to be able to put how amazing sex is into words? I don't know, maybe. But yeah, whatever. I do wish I could go back 20 years and play all these amazing games for the first time again, but whatever. Maybe I can get Dr. Betruger to make me a fucking, you know, fucking time machine while he's at it. I wonder how fucked up that would be. You already had the teleporter. What about a Betruger time machine?